Before we get into the main topic of episode 121, I want to remind everyone that the Hops Brewing Company and Cafe is open and pouring some of the best craft beer in West Michigan. Their revamped food menu, rotating taps, wine, and ciders make the Hops perfect for whatever you have going on, from dinner with the family, late night drinks with friends, and everything in between. The Hops is becoming a staple in the West Michigan restaurant community that we highly recommend to our friends and listeners. And they had that coupon go out for get a beer for a nickel for a meal over $12. So if you haven't used that one yet, please do so. They're the official brewery of State of My Sports in 2021. And if you mention State of My Sports, you'll get a nice little discount off your first beer. We're going to jump right into some Detroit Lions now. Kind of preview the way that we did with Michigan State the last couple weeks. And really this will be our last preview. And it kind of feels good. You know, we can kind of move past it here.
Get past it.
I mean, previewing professional teams is a way different feel than college because there's so many question marks, I feel like, in college. But then you look at this Lions team, there's a lot of question marks here, too.
But we know
they're
names.
Professionals.
We know the names.
Exactly. It's not, 24/7 Sports told me this guy's going to be good in 2 years, and it's 2 years now, so he's going to be good. No, we know these guys. They're professionals. This is what they get paid to do. And we know a lot about them. And I think, starting with the offense, let's start with the quarterback here. Obviously, it's Jared Goff replacing Matthew Stafford. I'm very intrigued.
Perfect word.
I think that's where I'm at with the Lions in general. I'm very intrigued. But Goff is one of those guys that I've never thought was as good as the NFL thought he was when they were winning. But I also don't think he's as bad as the NFL thinks he is now. And where is he going to fall? Where is that going to end up in Detroit? Year one, I think, is a really big question. I mean, if we got to get into year two and see how it develops. But year one, he's still probably one of our best players. Whether he's good or not, we're not going to learn a whole lot about this guy unless it's surprisingly good. You know what I mean?
So NFL has Jared Goff ranked basically dead last out of all quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, he was behind even some backups, I think.
Yeah, he was. And I think I know he's not as bad as that. He's not the worst quarterback in the NFL, and I agree with you. Last year, that is not true Jared Goff. He was in a really bad situation and still won a playoff game for him. So I think he has something that I'm not going to say he's a standout quarterback or a top 10 talent or anything at this point, but he has been in the past. And he's not the worst like he was last year. So he's somewhere in the middle, and I don't know if that's good enough. If he's, let's just say in the end, he's the 20th ranked quarterback and 20th best quarterback in the NFL. No, I don't want to build my team around a 20th best quarterback in the NFL. I'd rather go get a big-time talent in the draft. But he's not the worst. So let's stop pretending that the Lions are the laughing stock of the NFL because I don't think they're a laughing stock. I think they have too much talent to be a laughing stock. They might be a bottom third tier offense at the end of the year, but this is one of those moments, I think, for Jared Goff where he can say, screw all of you. Yeah. I'm going to prove you wrong, and wait and see what I do. And if that can happen, man, that's why it's so intriguing because I would love to see that. I would love to see him prove people wrong. And what if he ends up being a top 10 talent? What if he says, hey, I was the first overall pick. I signed this big contract literally 2 or 3 years ago and was a Super Bowl contending quarterback 3-4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm not that far removed from it. I was just in a bad situation where I hated my coaching staff and they hated me. And we just didn't get along. And now I'm in a good situation where I like the people that I'm around and I have a better attitude about it. That's possible.
It's possible. I don't want to say that that's the case. And I don't think you want to say that either.
No, I'm not. Because I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you can make it to a Super Bowl, you're not awful.
Well, right? Rex Grossman was awful.
That's a good point.
So he made it.
But like one thing that
Joe Flacco was awful.
With Goff is
Cam Newton.
Yeah, that's a great
he was
point.
Really good.
We could just name a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
Kaepernick.
Like every year.
Yeah,
Eli Manning.
Multiple times.
Let's just keep going. Trent Dilfer.
And you know what? I'll take any one of those for a Super Bowl winning team.
What a last name, Dilfer.
Aaron Rodgers, I think, made it to one Super Bowl.
Man, that's weird. Only one.
Here we go.
But no, I think it'll be interesting to see. Like, this is I think his first opportunity to be a leader, too. If he wants to be, I think they voted him team captain, which is cool. But like, in a lot of ways, it feels like they're letting the reins off of this guy, but it's just in a different jersey. You know what I mean? Like, he's coming into Detroit to be Stafford's replacement for now. And, man, that chip on the shoulder of the way he was treated the last year and a half in St. Louis, or not, sorry, holy smoke, St. Louis? That's a throwback.
Yeah, St. Louis.
Los Angeles.
Greatest show on turf.
And under that Sean McVay shadow, because even when they were making the playoffs and doing what they did, it was about Sean McVay.
Yep,
it was all about Sean McVay. And look, I think he's a good coach, so I don't want to underestimate that.
Yeah, but why was he the worst at dealing with Jared Goff last year? Why was he the worst at managing his quarterback the year before that? So he gets none of the blame. Yep. McVay doesn't get any of the blame. Who gets all the blame? It's
the quarterback.
Quarterback. Yeah, it's Jared Goff. He gets blamed for all of it, but he doesn't get any of the riches, I guess, the praise.
The more that, so it's going to take me a while. I'm still not over the Stafford moving on thing. I'm not going to get into that right now. But the more I look at bringing in Goff and not drafting Stafford's replacement seems like one of the best moves I've ever even seen. Because if you drafted your the replacement of Stafford and he was young, you're going to have the fans divided, because the fans were divided in a lot of ways with Stafford. The haters hated, the lovers loved. And if you drafted his replacement, they would just switch sides. The haters would hate the new guy just because he's not Stafford, and the lovers would love the new guy just because he's not Stafford. That's not a good way to do this. Goff can come in and be like, all the fans are just kind of like, okay, let's see. If he can win this fan base over, everybody will be on board. And it's not going to be split.
Well, because what's not split is the trade.
The trade's obvious.
Because Matthew Stafford demanded a trade. He didn't want to be here anymore, so they traded him. We got 2 first-round picks out of it, third-round pick, and you know the whole story.
Yep.
It was a good trade for the Lions. And now we're saying we also did not draft the next guy, like what you're saying. So that gives more confidence and shows a little bit more of an opportunity to Jared Goff. So it's his to take. I mean, it is all up to him on how this season goes, and I think that's why it's so fun to watch, because he could be playing for his next contract after this big one expires, and who knows? He could be like a Fitzmagic where he gets better with age and
with a beard.
He could grow a beard. I'd love for if he grew a beard.
That'd be nice. We do have a comment here from Bob Karen. They're heading to bed. They're older than us, at least, not too old. But they did want to get their beer grade in there. They got a 7.2 for the lime from Big Lake, the Lime Light, and then an 8.4 for the Orange Push from Arvon Brewing.
They like the orange.
Yeah, it's a very good score. Thank you guys for throwing your scores out there.
Put them right to bed.
So one thing with Goff is
I feel like Goff. Okay.
I do want to create it into the offensive line. I think that's a big key to Goff's success, let alone the offense success. It's a work in progress, it sounds like, with Sewell, but even without Sewell last year, they were decent enough. They're going to be an upgraded offensive line, I believe, with Jonah Jackson a year under his belt. Frank Ragnow is a complete stud. Vaitai hopefully has a nice bounce back year. And then I'm comfortable with Taylor Decker at left tackle. I think he's top 8, top 10.
Oh, he's a really good
guy.
Tackle.
Very sound and doesn't get noticed. And that's what a left tackle shouldn't do. Just don't get noticed.
And Logan Stenberg had a great preseason and a great camp, and the coaching staff seems to love him.
As a potential fill-in for Vaitai if he doesn't step up? Is that what you're thinking?
He might be the starting right guard coming week 1. Logan Stenberg.
That would be great to see.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But really, I think Goff, he was proven to be good out of the play action and short throws out of the play action in Los Angeles. If he can have time, if you can develop a running game with this offensive line getting the push that we hope that they can, they are so important to knowing what Goff could be. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the offensive line real quick? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Sewell, I think the more he plays, the more he's going to get comfortable. What I think is the potential risk is his mindset. If he keeps getting beat on a regular basis, like we saw in the preseason,
week 1. Oh.
I mean, that could be something that gets in his head. if you watch when he gets beat, he is not getting beat because he's not athletic enough. He jumps out. He is so quick. He gets to the spot early. The problem is when he's at the spot, the defensive linemen that are now the really good defensive linemen can adapt to whatever is in front of them. So they do a different move every single time based on the leaning, the hand placement, and all that stuff. And that's what you saw. He got beat by a little fake inside, and then he got beat around, or he got moved to the right side, got punched in the right shoulder, moved him to the wrong side, and then went around. Or he got beat around a couple of times, so he jumped outside and the guys just cut inside. So they were playing mind games with him. Mm-hmm. It was not a physical ability. It was not a strength issue. It was all about technique, and I think because he's on the right side, I think he's still learning that technique.
Development, right? Isn't that what we said at the beginning of this this conversation is the development year. Just let it play out. Mm-hmm. Like, listen, you want to go to the postseason. I get it. In the end, you're probably not going to go to the postseason. Just focus on player development and prep for the next 2 to 4 years. Don't worry about it. So what if he has a mediocre or subpar year?
Yeah, it's just Jared Goff that's going to get hit. He's replaceable.
Yeah.
It's not a rookie.
Hopefully, right. We'll move into some weapons, starting with the running back room. I think it's very intriguing as well. Swift is either going to have a breakout year, or I feel like it could be another missed second-round pick, another wasted second-round pick. And I don't want to put that much pressure on him because he is still young. It's still only year 2, right? But I need to see something. You know what I mean? I need health. I need to see some kind of fire. And it's probably not fair of me to think that he's going to be at every down back yet. I don't think he has to be with Jamal Williams either.
I don't want him to be. I don't want to put that pressure on his body at this point. He hasn't been healthy. Just stay healthy for a while.
So I think he's intriguing, though, because he has the ability to. I think we've seen the flashes.
Oh, yeah. He's dynamic.
For what he can do. And I don't know. I think the running back room in general, getting rid of Kerryon, getting rid of AP, and letting it be Swift and Jamal Williams, I love that tandem right there.
I think Jamal Williams is the key here because he's the safety net. He is the guy who will be consistent, and he's got the attitude for it. He just brings so much energy to the team and fun energy to the team. So he is a guy that the Lions will be able to rely on. Third down, he can do it all. He can pass block. He can do anything he needs to. He can be the bell cow if we need him. I think one guy we're not bringing up right now is Jamar Jefferson, who was our 7th round or 6th round pick that we actually traded up to get him. The team loved him coming out of college, and I think he's only shown really good things so far through preseason. He's steady. So if there is an injury, watch out for Jamar Jefferson.
What kind of running back is he?
He's not an extreme athlete. I would actually say he's kind of like Hassan Haskins, actually. He just plays a good brand of football. He's not easy to tackle. He moves his hips around. He breaks arm tackles. He has really good vision. The coaching staff just raves about his vision and getting to the right hole at the right time. And I think he's just all running back. He's not gonna stand out in the combine, and that's where he lost a lot of his value because he's not that fast. He doesn't bench press that much, but overall, he's just a better running back than most running backs.
I feel like those type of things are so overrated in a running back because it's all about vision and the way you can see the field and the way you are confident in your running.
Yes, and that's exactly what he was. Confident, and he could see the field.
I hope he is. Real quick, going back to Jamal Williams, Mike, obviously being a Packer fan, I didn't watch him nearly as much as you, obviously, and I don't know much about him. I know he's a powerful guy, but can he catch the ball out of the backfield?
Oh, yeah.
So he can do it all type thing, but he doesn't have to do it all. Is that a fair look?
For those of you who don't know, he is a do it all running back, and he's basically like maybe like a poor man Aaron Jones. He is really, really good. You will like him. He is super dynamic. He's got good hands. I don't know what his numbers are like, yards after catch, but he can get upfield, and he is good.
I am excited about him, and I think he's perfect for what this locker room needs right now in the moment.
And
it's not another young guy like Kerryon was with Swift. It's a veteran-ish guy.
And his attitude and personality, like Ryan said, is almost unparalleled. He's so incredibly positive. it's almost unheard of.
What a good guy. I've just seen a few videos of him, and he's just always has a big smile. But Swift, to just put a bow on this whole thing, I think Swift has the ability to be like a Saquon Barkley type of running back. Maybe not an 80-yard explosion threat like Saquon Barkley is at any given moment, but I think he has that kind of hole hitting ability and explosive ability, or in one cut miss type of guy. And if he can stay healthy, and if he actually can be healthy for an extended period of time, we're going to see really great things out of him.
Sam likes him enough. He drafted him.
DeAndre Swift.
Jamal Williams? Yeah, I drafted Swift.
Yeah, Swift.
Oh, nice.
Sure. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Yeah,
he's healthy. He's playing week 1. That's a win.
There you go.
That's a win. More weapons, wide receiver, tight ends. I just look at this as a wait and see. Obviously, Hawkinson's going to have his. He's going to be very important for Goff. He's, I think, due for a nice big season. But the wide receiving room still feels slim. And I don't want to overthink it, because you look at playoff caliber teams, like the teams that are in the Super Bowl, they don't have the guy. You know what I mean? It's not about the number one, Devontae Adams, like DeAndre Hopkins. You don't need that freak of nature that you can rely on with 12 catches a game. You don't need it. It's nice to have. But you look at this, and it just seems thin. So real quick, the names that we're looking at.
The Buccaneers only have 3 of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's an anomaly, though, I feel like, right? From previous winners.
A what?
I said it. Okay, I'm not going to try it again. Tyrell Williams, Tyrell Williams. Amon Ross St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Quintez Cephas, Cadaryl Hodge, who was the Cleveland cast-off, Trinity Benson, who was the Broncos trade, and then Tom Kennedy. So you got a lot of names there. I'm just in wait-and-see mode with this wide receiving core. I think the wide receivers could be good enough, but I think it starts with that running game. If they can introduce a running game and really make that something that people have to worry about, that's when these wide receivers are going to be okay. Good enough.
Khalif Raymond is an amazing athlete. He really is. If people haven't seen him, if they're not familiar, you will get familiar. Khalif Raymond is a name to watch out for. He is hard to stay in front of. He's quick twitch type of athlete. He's a return guy. So you're going to like him. I hope he has the hands for it. That's the one question.
Sorry, who are you talking about?
Khalif Raymond.
Okay, sorry.
The next guys that you just brought up, Cadaryl Hodge, I've always liked him in the Browns wide receiver room. They're stacked there, so I see why he was cut. I think he could be a steady type of receiver, maybe like even an upgrade to Quintez Cephas if he doesn't work out. He's a little bit more athletic, but steady. And then Trinity Benson is the one that I wanted to highlight here. He is actually a guy that I'm pretty excited about. I think he has a lot of ability, and Broncos Nation
they weren't happy about it.
They weren't happy about it at all. They really wanted to see him in the lineup, actually, like getting reps, and that says a lot with the receiving corps that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So someone's bound to stand out. You're going to have one receiver stand out at least throughout the year. I mean, who do you expect it to be?
I mean, I hope it's a young guy.
We would love Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I would love for him to be the guy. I don't think he's built to be the guy.
I think he's a Golden Tate. I think he is the next Golden Tate for the Lions offense.
Like, he could be the Lions number one, but he wouldn't be in a successful team.
He's a Hines Ward tough guy that just all the defensive backs hate because he plays a little bit too hard for their liking. But then he's also like a scrappy offensive guy, like a Golden Tate. I think he could beat him deep. He could beat him short. He's going to give what the defense gives him. But I think I'm expecting Khalif Raymond to take a big step forward. I would love for him to be a mainstay in this offense.
I think he could be. And the worst case scenario, but also best case scenario here, I know it's a weird way to put it, is that a guy like Tyrell Williams and Quintez Cephas are either not on the roster or just not getting playing time mid-season. And the other guys jumped in and passed him. And I would hate to lose, like, what was he, the third-round pick, Cephas? And that sucks, releasing a guy like that or moving on.
Pick.
Oh, I thought he was earlier than that, but you could be right. You might be right in the middle there.
5th round, yeah.
But I've never really liked him, so like I'd be okay with moving on from him. But at the same time, it sucks losing that type of asset, if you will, when he comes with a pick.
John, what round was he drafted in?
5th round.
So I was right.
What year?
Let's pretend.
This is year 2, I think, for him.
2020 vision.
Yeah, out of Wisconsin.
You got to give him some time.
I think so, too. But I would also love for one of these other guys to say, no, you don't get more time.
The point is,
that would make me
we're not sold on any of them.
That's the definition of competition.
Yeah, and that's
absolutely.
That's a thing that we have here. And I think Trinity Benson could be a guy that kind of jumps in. Again, he doesn't kind of fit the number 1 mold. He's kind of like the Cooper Kupp, I think, if you're going back to a Goff run offense with speed. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
None of them are number 1s. Tyrell Williams is the closest number 1. He's done it before. He's not going to be that guy again, but he'll show flashes. We'll see him.
So we'll move to the defensive side of the ball, starting with the defensive line. I personally loved it. I love the defensive line, and I probably shouldn't. I feel like I've loved them longer than I should have. I've been high on them even going in the last couple of years.
I like them too.
Health permitted. You have high-end guys there. I think it starts with Michael Brockers. I love bringing that guy in. I think he could be a guy. I think he played a much bigger role than the NFL gives him credit for in what other people did around him. His stats weren't crazy. He wasn't explosive or like getting in the like sacks or anything. Like his numbers aren't what's important.
He's not bad at getting sacks.
It's not bad, but I think what he does and what he brings to a team is not measurable in stats.
His leadership,
but also like creating havoc to give another guy option. The Rams paid him a decent amount of money.
Yeah, they did.
And they couldn't afford him. That's basically why the Lions had. I think they traded for him. Right? Was it a 7th round pick or something like that, or a late round pick of some sort? But that was why they had to move on. It's not that they didn't want him or he wasn't useful. I think he plays a big role in what the Rams do on that defensive line, and I hope that he can bring that into what the Lions need him to do.
Well, not only that, last year's late round pick, John Pencini, was awesome. But he's a bigger guy. He's a run stuffer. He's not going to get after the quarterback too much, but he moves bodies. Mm-hmm. That's what he's there to do. So he can help develop John Penicini. And then the 2 defensive tackles that we got this year, Aleem McNeal and Levi Onwuzurike, you couldn't ask for a better role model. Just personality, the person himself, and then also his play on the field. He's seen everything. He knows what to do, how to react to each situation. So those guys are getting to learn from a true veteran, a leadership guy. He seems to be the leader in the clubhouse on defense.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's the voice of the defense right now out of all those guys. So I think it was the perfect veteran presence to bring in with this young group of guys.
Yeah, and you didn't bring up Deshaun Hand. I know his injuries have been an issue. If he can be healthy, I still think he can compete in this league.
I think they put him on the IR for now, right? First 3 weeks, he's definitely out.
Yep. Which you get used to. I mean, we're all used to that now. But
yeah.
And then I did want to put the outside linebackers on the defensive line because I think we're going to see them there more. It's going to be similar to what Michigan's kind of transitioning to do, right? But Trey Flowers and Romeo Okwara, I mean, who would have thought that somebody would pass what Trey Flowers is important? I think Romeo Okwara might be our better guy.
He's the key.
But Trey Flowers is no slouch either. If it all is, he's not, the league hasn't passed him by yet.
So
I think is what I want to say.
Trey Flowers, if he's healthy, he is a really good all-around defensive end. He can hold his own in the run defense, and then he can also get to the quarterback here and there and get 7 to 10 sacks a year. We've seen him do that on a bad defensive line with the Lions. And then what Romeo Okwara's breakout year last year, he is the key because he's the speed guy around that can bull rush when he needs to. So that's the guy that the defense has to plan for to beat the tackle around the edge.
So the way I want to picture this is our ends, outside linebackers, are going to go more wide to force the quarterback to step up more, and that's where Michael Brockers, Onwuzurike, Nick Williams will kind of cause havoc that we haven't seen before. Is that fair to say?
So Romeo Okwara is going to be the one to beat guys around the edge.
Okay, so it's kind of like, okay.
It's a little offset, right?
All right.
And then And then Trey Flowers is going to be the one to engage the defensive lineman and break off to make the run stop when he needs to, and then maybe use his hands well enough to get through the inside or the outside for the sack. Romeo Okwara is the speed guy. He's the athlete that they're going to be using on the outside, and Julian Okwara is the backup for him.
Yeah.
So another athlete.
I also don't want to overlook Austin Bryant. I think when he plays,
I love that dude.
I love what he does.
Yeah, I think he's athletic enough. He's and tall enough, and he's that like versatile defensive player that can use. He's a talented guy. He's just been bitten by the injury bug so far, and there's a reason why he's always been on the roster. They protected him.
They could have easily cut a guy like Austin Bryant and Deshaun Hand just because people wouldn't give a crap if you cut those guys, because it's like, oh yeah, they didn't get a whole lot of numbers and stuff, but like the fact that every single year these guys keep getting and staying on the roster, even though it's hard to keep those type of guys.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it. That means they have that upside. I think multiple coaching staffs thought were worth keeping on board.
Absolutely. And this is the core of the defensive team right here.
Yeah.
Is the defensive line. And we didn't even talk about Levi Onwuzurike yet.
Yeah.
And honestly, so I watched his last game against Pittsburgh. I saw a film study on him and what he did every single play that he was out there. And I got so excited with his first step and his ability to make plays in the backfield. If you haven't seen that, try to look for his highlights in preseason week 3. And I don't care if it's preseason. I don't care if you want to laugh at me. He beat his man one-on-one. He beat his double teams more than one time. He beat double teams right and left. I think he is such a natural ability and strength to just hold people off with that hand and cause havoc in the backfield, just like what we drafted him to do. And I'm thinking he's going to trickle into this defense as the season goes on, and it's probably the right idea. Get him motivated, let him learn a little bit. We got a lot of veteran presence right now on the line early on, and then as the season goes, let him loose.
You can have that rotating door and keep guys fresh too. And if you can keep your guys fresher than the offensive line, you're going to make those big plays. You're going to catch the quarterback on the blind side, cause a turnover, cause a bad throw, all of those things. Another person that wasn't mentioned was Liam Mcneal, who's actually going to get the start, it sounds like, at nose tackle.
It's looking
it sounds like
that.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great to see. We'll see what it turns into. But moving to kind of a less deep side, if you will, of position are the linebackers. So the inside linebackers are going to be Alex Anzalone and Jamie Collins.
Yep.
Sounds like they're going to get the starts. Seems like they're getting ready to get passed at some point this year, hopefully, by a guy like Derek Barnes.
Yeah, Derek Barnes could win a job easily.
Yeah.
But that would be because he shines and not because somebody else loses it. I think Alex Anzalone he's a fast, athletic linebacker, so he's going to fill a need for this team based on their 3-4 defense.
Okay.
And he's going to cover a lot of ground, so I think he'll be serviceable. He'll be okay. He's not going to be a strength to the defense. Jamie Collins, I think he is that bigger linebacker, but he's also fast. He is versatile, and he has not played poorly the last couple of years.
No, I agree. I was actually kind of surprised that we kept him though, just because he shines in the Patriot way type defense. We saw him do really well in the Patriots, struggle with Cleveland, go back to the Patriots, do well, come to Detroit in the Patriots regime type thing.
This is still a 3-4 defense,
but the fact that we didn't move on from him is encouraging to me, and I think it's important because he's going to be the mic, right? He's going to be the guy with the headset. He's going to be the guy directing these young players. I mean, our corners are I think we have 0 guys in the secondary that's over 25 or something like that.
Yeah, it's the youngest
it's something
group in
insane
football.
like that. I think Warriors are the oldest guy or something.
Third year.
But anyway, it's just like, I like it, but our biggest that's been our weakness, right? Covering tight ends with our linebackers. Every team seems to find a way to expose that, and it never works.
But who's been responsible for that?
I would assume the scheme.
That's what Alex Anzalone was hired to do.
Is to cover tight ends.
Okay. and be the more athletic speed linebacker to cover those guys. And look at his backup, Jalen Reeves-Maben, who has not played the last few years.
At least other than special teams.
And he's been a standout on special teams, but he's known for his speed. That's why he was drafted at the time before the last regime got there.
So you think it's a scheme issue that we've seen in the past?
I think linebackers are such a scheme fit, They're so dependent on that, and they can be great athletes and they can be standouts and everything else. But if you're not one of those world beaters, then you better fit into the scheme or else you're going to struggle.
So move down to the DBs. Jeff Okudah and Amani Orwarier are the two guys there.
Prove it, yeah.
Ifantu, I don't know.
Ifichu Mfanu.
Yeah, whatever his name is. Well, I'll learn it when I need to. It will be kind of that next guy in. But Tracy Walker and Will Harris are the safeties. I like the safeties. I like the potential of the corners. I know it's probably hard for people to hear what we saw the last couple of years. But what do you think about the secondary here?
So Dean Marlowe was cut, right? But then they got him back. Is that true? Am I remembering
honestly,
that right?
I don't even remember that.
They got rid of Dean Marlowe. They signed him. They got rid of him. But I'm wondering if it was one of those guys where they brought him back afterwards. I'm not sure. But I think the key to this group is Jeff Okudah. This is second year. Amani Orwarier, third year. Ifichu Mfanu, rookie.
Yep.
All
young.
Really, really good athletes. Really young and no depth behind them. Yep. And actually Bobby Price, who's shown on this depth chart as a safety, he's actually playing as the backup cornerback right now.
Is he?
Yeah.
What do you think about Tracy Walker?
I've always been a Tracy Walker fan.
I think he could be. I don't want to sneak into any of my.
You put Tracy Walker on the Seattle
players,
Seahawks defense of old, and I think he would be a standout. I think he'd be talked about as one of the best safeties in football.
Yeah.
I think with the right people around him, he is a good enough athlete, and he sees the field well enough where he can be dangerous. He can do a lot of things. Now, he was left on an island a lot last year, and he was basically a glorified cornerback, and that's not his best strength. I don't think he's a bad corner guy against safeties or anything, but that's not what he should be used for. He's too good of an athlete and sees the field too well to be used like he was last year.
Yeah, we'll get into that as we get into some players here in a minute.
All right.
But what are your overall thoughts heading into the season? I have some pretty strong thoughts on how I'm feeling, but I'm curious about yours before I get into mine. If you're...
Yeah, what a weird year, because I'm high on a lot of these players, and I'm high on the defensive line. That's always been the weakest part of this team, this defense, and the corners, obviously. But
probably not weakest, but never stood up to what
the least
lived
impactful.
Lived up to the hype, I think, and the talent that has always been there.
And the ability to stop the run and everything. They were dead last in run defense last year and pass defense last year. That shows how bad they were. And so the NFL as a whole is counting this team out. They're ranked as the worst offensive team in football and the worst defensive team in football. That means that they could potentially go 0-16 this year, according to
17.
NFL's. 0-17, thank you.
17
they could potentially go 0-17 this year, according to NFL standards. No, they're not going to do that. They're too good of a team in my mind. They have too many athletes and too much talent on the team to let that happen. But this team could be a 3-win team. Or I think it could be as high as a 6 or 7-win team. I think they could get hot, and it wouldn't surprise me too much. But I'm also not drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't think they're a good team. I'm excited about this year for watching the development of players and seeing how one really great quarterback and a wide receiver combo could impact this team long term. That's what I'm here to watch.
So I wrote down that I'm not excited for this football season, but that's a lie, because I am very excited. I'm excited in a completely different way. Every year, the last 10, I've been hopeful with a guy like Stafford and be like, hey, you have a guy that can win you games. If you put anything of value around him, you can win games. Will you? No. We know that now, that we will not win games. But there was that hope and that excitement of what ifs. I don't have any of those what ifs right now at this point. I'm basically I plan on sitting and suffering through some really ugly losses and some games that they should have given away or should have won and ended up losing, because I just don't think the talent is deep enough, is not in the crucial positions to win football games, if that's a way to look at, or a way to say it. I'm trying to go into it with an open mind, because I don't know enough about Goff and the new coaching staff and all of these things, and it can come together quickly. but I don't want to like. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going into this just like no expectations. I'm gonna go in just like you said, see how it develops, and watch a game. Hope they win. I'm gonna hope that they win. I'm not gonna root against my team. Whoa, that sucks. I'm not gonna root against my team. At least early on. But like I just feel like it's gonna be one of those years. It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be a year where you're watching Levi and Wuzurike in the middle of the defense to see how he's reacting. And even if he doesn't get to the quarterback and they get a 10-yard gain, you're gonna be like, oh, but he beat his guy. That was awesome to see. Like that's what I'm gonna be looking at, and that's not how you are supposed to watch football, in my opinion. I mean, we're there to watch the team win, but I don't expect them to be a team that just wins.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. State of My Sports.
Did want to get into some players. So like we did with our college football teams, we got some breakout players. Don't forget about rebound and a Darkhorse MVP type thing. We'll start with a rebound player. I'm going to go with Deandre Swift. I think he's shown flashes. I already kind of brought that up. I think it's going to be a point of emphasis on this.
Breakout or rebound?
Breakout.
Well, you could say either one, really.
I went with breakout because I don't think rebound's fair because he didn't have that good year yet. You know what I mean? Like a rebound would be like he showed that he was good, then was bad, and then can be good again. So that's why I went with breakout.
Yeah,
I think
that makes sense.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I think he could be the 3-down back, but I don't think they're going to put him in that situation quite yet. I'm really excited to see what he can do, and I think a lot of it relies on the offense line. Stuff that we already talked about, but he's kind of my breakout player. Like, I mean, so real quick, let's throw some stats out there from last year. 13 games, 114 attempts, 521 yards. So it's 4.6 average. That's not that bad. Not that exciting either, but it's
pretty good.
With being the feature guy, the only guy, with only Jamal Williams, I mean, we'll see with the guy you brought up, but I don't know. I think he could be that guy in this league to really kind of explode and be good on a bad team.
I agree. I'm going to pick the same guy. I think DeAndre Swift has the best ability to be a top 5 fantasy football draft pick next year. Like if he proves himself
this
year,
because I have him on my roster.
I'd say going into next year's draft, this year there's a lot of question marks. He's not a round 1 guy that you're going to pick, and I think he could end up being a round 1 guy in fantasy football, and that's not a good measure, but it kind of is because that's the expectations that Jonathan Taylor earned from last year.
Yeah,
those are the expectations that people have for Saquon Barkley when he's healthy. Those are the expectations that Ezekiel Elliott gets on a year-by-year basis. So he could end up being that guy because he does have the pass catching ability and the overall speed, the making guys miss. We've talked about it. He has the ability to break out more than any other player on this.
I think a key for him this year will be show that you can be a blocker in the 100% passing situations. You know what I mean?
So you're a 3-down back.
Yeah, exactly. Show that you can be. You don't have to be every time, but show that you have the ability to be. John, Mike, honestly, jump in if you guys have anything. I'm not trying to. If you guys have any information or stuff that you want to bring up, feel free. But I didn't want to talk about some don't forget about players. Ryan, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to say don't forget about Amani Orwarier because he has played as the number 1 cornerback really the last 2 years. 2 years ago as a rookie, he was over-succeeding his draft round value. And last year, he really proved himself as a dependable cornerback, and I think he is good. He can line up against pretty much anybody. He reminds me a lot of Darius Slay. So I'd say don't forget about him. I think he's going to be really good, and all eyes are going to be on Jeffrey Okudah for good reason. But Orwarier, if he's our safety net, if he's the guy that we're all mad at Okudah for whatever reason, or we're all happy about Okudah for whatever reason, that other guy needs to play well so he's not exposed, and that's Orwarier, and I think he's rock solid.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to attack one corner or another, right? And if you have 2 good corners that they don't want to attack, then I mean that's great to have. So if Okudah's getting thrown at all the time, that's a step in Orwarier. They don't want to throw over there.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily because Okudah sucks at his job and is leaving guys open. It's just because
it's more like prove it.
Yeah, exactly. I actually went with Michael Brockers. I already talked a little bit about him, but we didn't see him in training camp. We didn't see him in preseason. But he's going to be so important to this defense. He's going to the way I looked at it, and I kind of already said it, is what he does is unmeasurable in the stat category. I think he worked really well with Aaron Donald and kind of opened things up for him. Don't get me wrong. Aaron Donald's crazy talent, and I'm not saying any of these guys on Lions roster is going to become Aaron Donald because you have Michael Brockers. But
Levi,
what he did for Aaron Donald, I think, could be something to keep an eye on both sides. What is he doing in Detroit? Did Aaron Donald take a step back because he doesn't have this type of talent clogging things up and creating opportunities? I'm not saying that's what he does, but that is what he does. You know what I mean?
Everything I said about Amani Orwarier could be said about Michael Brockers. The argument is you have to be solid across the board, and he is the rock solid one that people won't talk about, but he's going to do his job super well. So don't forget it. I think it's a great choice.
All right, so rebound player, anybody that you lean towards here?
I'm thinking Trey Flowers. I really want to see what Trey Flowers is going to do in this defense with a new defensive scheme. We paid him a lot of money, so it's not like you can just get rid of a guy like that, so they kind of feel obligated to play him. But we've seen this coaching staff and the GM, they cut people even if they paid him.
Yep.
Like, if you're not playing, if you're not doing the right things, if you're not doing the way they wanted you to do it, they're going to get rid of you. And so this is going to be a big year for Trey Flowers, and I think when healthy, paired with Okwara, this is a pretty good pass rush. Like, it's not going to be the one that leads the league in sacks pass rush, but they're going to be two solid defensive ends that you might have to throw an extra body on to contain, and that opens up the middle.
I thought Okudah is the easy one. I don't think you can say rebound just because he hasn't shown it yet. You know what I mean? Kind of what I just said about was it Swift? Why he wasn't my rebound player. But I actually settled on Tracy Walker, and it was because of an article that a friend of mine showed me. Basically, Tracy Walker, his first 2 years combined in this Pro Football Focus, he had an 82.5, which was 12th among safeties with at least 1,000 snaps. Last year, Walker was playing, this is what they said, not me. This is just information that I thought was very, very useful. He was playing closer to the line of scrimmage as opposed to free safety, where he is at his best friend. Ken already talked all about that. He was kind of in that corner role, close to the line of scrimmage. Let this guy play a true free safety, and they called it a split safety. I wasn't sure what that meant exactly. I would assume it's more of a free, but also can.
It's a free. He was covering ground. He was covering ground deep and running all over the field.
But in Aaron Glenn's scheme, he will be back. You know what I mean? He'll be back to what he's comfortable doing, back farther away from line of scrimmage, just out there making plays. So I think he still has the talent to be a good safety in this league. You already said it. And I don't know. We'll see.
I love it.
I think that's a good one. And then for my Darkhorse MVP, I went Frank Ragnow, just because I think he is the leader of this offensive line. And if Penei Sewell and Vaitai can be 3/4 of what their ceiling is, I think this could be one of a very elite offensive line. It could come together quicker than people realize. I think it's going to be a work in progress, but I think Frank Ragnow is a big key, and I think that might be why Penei Sewell did struggle, because they were just throwing him to the wolves to let him feel it out. You know what I mean? It was rare that Vaitai was there. It was rare that Decker. It was rare that this offensive line played a snap together in preseason. I don't even know if they did. And I think having the unit could happen quick. But I'm also cautious to say that because it is a tough thing for Penei Sewell to do. Vaitai, I'm not sold on him yet, but they both have the ability to be good on the right side of the line. So I think Frank Ragnow kind of fits that. And it's not going to be pretty. It's just an opinion, I guess, at who your MVP is at that point.
So I actually, that's a really good choice. I was thinking about Taylor Decker for all the same reasons. He's not going to get the praise from the media. We've never really seen the praise for him in the media, but he is a top 10 left tackle, which is saying a lot because everybody in that left tackle gets paid. So he's a really good left tackle that could end up being a top 5 guy if he has a really good year, and that could be an MVP, Darkhorse MVP for this team moving forward. However, and that was a long way of saying it's not him, but Jeffrey Okudah is my Darkhorse MVP.
I hope so, man.
And I'm just saying, I'm not to say that I'm expecting him to be an elite cornerback, but if he somehow figures that out and he is the physical cornerback that we know he is, the really good tackler, maybe gets beat here and there, but he's a playmaker like he was for Ohio State and what this defense hopefully can get out of him, that will make such a big difference to have rock-solid Orwarier on the outside, Jeffrey Okudah on the other side, and now the linebackers and the safeties can do their thing. They can run on the field and cause havoc. And now the defensive line has more time to get to the quarterback and cause havoc. This defense will look so much better if they cannot pick on one cornerback in this group. Yep. If they have a cornerback that they can pick on every single week in, week out, that's bad stuff for the defense. So I think the defense overall at every single position would be so much better if Jeffrey Okudah can step up and be that number one. And let's not forget, he's playing with his coach is Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn. Well, he's the defense coordinator.
He's the defensive coordinator.
But there's also
he's a DB. He played defensive back in the NFL, and he was a DB's coach for the New Orleans Saints. All so right. he is the perfect guy to surround. To be right in Jeffrey Okudah's ear to give him every single little tip here and there, build his confidence, and really bring him to the next level. Yeah,
so for overall, for the ceiling and the floor, I'm going to start with the floor. I think this team has enough questions, enough concerns that it's the floor for me is 0-17. I think that they're an underdog in all of the games, and I haven't seen anything that's they're going to win a game, no question in my mind. You know what I mean? Usually you can find a game or two that's they're going to win that game. I can't promise that they're going to win a game this year.
They have a tough schedule.
They do have a tough schedule, but they're also not a good team. They're not.
Yeah.
At least from what we've seen right now.
The NFL is good right now. There's a lot of young talent that's been stepping up, and the old talent stuck around for a long time.
For the ceiling, I went with 6 wins. And the way that I got with that was 2 wins in the division. In my opinion, if they can,
could be Chicago, could be
Chicago
Green Bay sleeper pick.
I went with Vikings 1 and Bears 1 at home later in the season. That's where my brain went. And then I put Bengals, Philly, Denver, and Atlanta are all possible. At least on paper heading into the season. I'm not saying it's going to happen, obviously. But I settled right in that 4. I put 4-10. That's not right.
4-13.
4-13 as my prediction.
All right.
And I think that might be a little. I don't know.
You're compensating. You're on the low end.
You think so? Where would you kind of put there? Where do you kind of predict here?
I mean, their floor. I don't think it's 0-17. I don't think you're going to get a winless Lions team. I think at least 2 wins is my low. Is 2 wins.
What is their ceiling then?
I think their ceiling is probably 8. I mean, we have 17 games now, so 8-11, 9 is not that great of a year.
Yeah,
I don't expect them to do that. Their schedule's too hard, but I think that is their ceiling. If they get on a roll, and this coaching staff, this is an unknown coaching staff, which could mean that they come in guns a-blazing and they know how to win games in football. We don't know that yet. So I maybe that's a little too high. I was planning on 7 wins as my high, but I just kind of went.
What's your prediction?
I'm thinking 5.
5?
Yeah, 5-12.
That's fair.